Could you imagine how different Ralphie's daydreams would be if this happened after Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
He's like, when I get my Red Ryder.
Guess where they're not having dinner, guys?
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked out.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love and growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday nights searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I am one of your three hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Ralphie Lyons.
Be a good boy. Show mommy how the piggies eat.
And each week, the audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out of race car VHS tape rewinders and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes at the end of each podcast. The three of us will provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes, each movie would need to take to get off your respective bums. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and share with a friend. We're everywhere on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Grindr, Tinder, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud. Sizzle. Right, that's right. You can also help the podcast out by clicking our Amazon affiliate link as you do your Christmas and New Year's returns and shopping. That being said, Big D, we are, as our final podcast of 2017, what are we doing?
This sounded like a good idea when we first mentioned it, that the vote for Christmas movies was tight between Scrooged and A Christmas Story, and we decided to do both. Now watching these two, and with the holidays past, I'm done with holiday movies.
Yeah.
But the vote was real close between the two movies, so we decided to do both to make the listeners happy. So mercifully, this will cup 2017 and our holiday movie section.
Yeah, here's the thing about holiday movies. I unfortunately couldn't make the Scrooge cast because I believe I was traveling. But I believe that there are certain movies in our recollection that come around only once a year around the holidays, and then they go back into the vault until the next holiday season. And I think that the reason they do that, or the reason that we think that these movies are good, is because they do that. So we get excited when movies like A Christmas Story or Scrooged or, God forbid, what's the one? The Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the live action one? Yeah.
Jim Carrey.
Yeah. So we think those movies are better than what they are because we only see them once a year. But they're pretty terrible films, with the exception of, I think Scrooge is a fantastic movie. In fact, I was really excited. I was really bummed I missed that podcast. But this movie, guys, this was, I fell asleep like 3 times this morning trying to force my way through this terrible movie.
I think what you said is accurate. It's like when you get really blackout drunk and you puke and you wake up the next day hungover and you said, I'm never doing this to myself again. I'm never drinking. And then however long it takes you, a couple weeks, couple months, you forget that experience and you do it again. That's what A Christmas Story is.
Yeah, but the difference is that every TV network and your entire family doesn't once a year come up and go, hey, Big D, let's get blackout drunk. Everybody get blackout drunk. We're going to get blackout drunk for 24 hours on TV. Let's all get, no, I mean, and that's the thing is you can't, you're almost force fed these. And I go back to, I like Christmas music. I honestly do. But the thing is, it's much easier to sell something if you slap that Christmas label on it, right? So like a movie, if this was just a movie that wasn't about Christmas, nobody would watch it. It is strictly because it's a Christmas movie. The same with, and I'm going to catch some flack here, but it's the same with like Christian rock. Those bands would never make it if they weren't Christian rock bands.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to start a religion, and then we need to start a rock band and label it that religion's music. Well, and we'll have a built-in audience.
Whatever the Jedis are going to move on to is what we should do.
I agreed. Well, A Christmas Story is a 1983 American Christmas comedy film directed by Porky's director Bob Clark and based on Gene Shepard's semi-fictional anecdotes in his 1966 book, In God We Trust, All Others Pay Cash, with some elements from his 1971 book, Wanda Hickey's Night of Golden Memories. A seasonal classic in North America, it is shown numerous times on television, usually on the networks owned by the Turner Broadcast System. Since 1997, a marathon of the film titled 24 Hours of a Christmas Story has aired annually on TNT and or TBS, comprising 12 consecutive airings of the film on both Christmas Eve and Christmas Day each year. You will watch this film if you live in America. The question we always ask ourselves, though, is where were you the first time you watched A Christmas Story? Big D, we'll start with you.
So this was a big moment in my life. This was one of the first movies that I was able to see alone as a kid. So my mother let me out. I think at the time I was maybe 10. I had turned 10 it's because December. Yeah, so I was 10. And I went down to the movie theater. It seemed like it was going to be a good movie because I actually owned a Red Ryder pump-action BB gun. I thought this movie would speak to me, and I can't remember what I thought of it at the time. Really didn't make an impact. But then as the years have passed, and like you said, all the, Gene, all the channels and just the media has just shoved it down our throats. This was the first time in a long time because I've avoided the constant airings. And I don't know this. I don't know why people love this.
Yeah, for me, like I remember this being shown. You know what it was like going to an American public school, whether it was you went to a middle school or a high school. If it was publicly owned, inevitably around the holidays, teachers just were like, you know what, I'm going to give up. We're going to show Christmas movies. I want to be on Christmas vacation as much as you do, kids. I want to have my 2 or 3 weeks off. Just watch A Christmas Story. So inevitably, every period we would watch a portion of the Christmas Story. So you might start off with the beginning and first period, but by the end of it, it was like TBS had come to your public school and shown the Christmas Story, which is why I think people got it in their ideas. Executives at TBS, they were like, well, it worked in middle school. Why can't it work on this channel? So I believe that's where they drew the inspiration from. But I remember the first time I ever watched this was in school. And people loving it, and it's ingrained in your head. If you're an American child, you grew up with this film. It's National Lampoon's Vacation, and it's bits and pieces of Star Wars. That's in every American's head right now.
So when I was a kid, I had this pair of shorts, and they were like gray and white checkered shorts, and with like a geometric pattern, and right over where my little kid penis was, there was a red triangle. And I called it, in Farsi, it's the perched, which means the flag. I had the flag over there. And I had an aunt who would always fake like she was going to touch my penis. And then I would tell her, no, you can't touch it. It has a flag on it.
Yeah.
I'm 37 years old, and every time I see that aunt, she's like, ha, 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 it has a flag on it. That's how I feel about this movie. It's like you're shoot your eye out and fragile and all that shit is like, it's that aunt that just keeps plugging that same joke. And you're like, it wasn't funny to begin with. Yeah. It's personal. Don't touch it. Mm-hmm. And also it's still not funny now because I didn't see this movie till I was an adult. I was living in Ohio. I'd been working in newsrooms at that point for like a decade. And in every newsroom, there was a leg lamp. In every newsroom, people would be quoting this movie. And finally, it was a snowy winter in Ohio. I said, you know what? Fuck it, I'll watch it. And I'd heard it referenced a million times, and I wanted to see all the fuss is about. And I watched the whole thing, and when it was over, I thought it was one of those movies that they built up, and you didn't get it until the last end. There was going to be this, those movies where there's a golden moment at the end.
Right.
And you're like, oh, never happened.
No.
And to this day, I just don't get it.
So I think this movie is a perfect example of compliance or public conformity. People don't actually like the movie, but they like it because they think everyone else does.
Right.
And in psychology, they call it the normative social influence, that they don't necessarily believe it, but it's just something people say. Like, what kind of heartless asshole would you be if you said you hated A Christmas Story? You'd be us.
Oh, without a doubt. I've prepared myself mentally and physically for the barrage of emails, tweets, Facebook messages we're going to receive. Because, guys, I think we're all in consensus here. This movie isn't a good movie. It's not. It's part of our culture as Americans to watch this over the holidays. But if we're staying honest with ourselves as movie reviewers of movies that we grew up with, it doesn't stand the test of time. I mean, I guess it stands the test of time in that you can watch it and it was in the 40s and it's a period piece. But overall, it's not a great movie.
No, it's just a thing you do.
Yeah.
It's like, what's that holiday bread that people always give that has nuts and little pieces of like
Fruitcake.
Yeah, fruitcake. Does anyone actually like fruitcake? Would you fucking go buy fruitcake in June?
It depends on if I'm visiting my aunt or my uncle who's trying to touch my pak schwa.
Patch. So you got to learn it before you ever visit the Middle East. Everyone's going to be grabbing your dick.
They're going to be calling they call me fruitcake, and then they try to touch my patchik.
I just love that Big D hates Christmas so much.
I don't.
That he calls fruitcake that bread.
All right, listen. So I'm in Florida for this Christmas, and I got to spend time with my good friend over there, Big D, and I brought gifts because I really love the holiday season because I love to give gifts. Big D's wife does not believe in giving Christmas gifts, and Emma, your daughter, is getting older enough to where you're trying to make the decision. Well, do I exchange Christmas gifts because you could have Christmas either way, but you don't really give gifts as a culture. Right, with you and your wife.
It's not as a culture. It's her religion. She's a Seventh-day Adventist.
Right.
So she doesn't. But like this holiday, we celebrate Christmas not as a religious holiday, but we will celebrate it culturally, like everyone else does. So I'm not against gifts.
I'm so confused here. So wait, the cultural significance of Christmas, if you're not doing it for religious reasons, is gift giving.
Yeah.
But he doesn't give gifts.
It's because she's 2 years old. She gets stuff every single day. Next year, when she's aware Christmas is coming, then we can hype it up and she'll get gifts. But this year, her birthday was a month ago. She's gotten nonstop gifts and packages for the last month. She's going to think this gravy train never ends.
Don't you love her?
I do. And that's why the lights are on. That's why there's heat. She's got clothes. And right now, she's well fed and asleep.
Well, Big D, feudal father.
Play the trailer.
In this modern age, too many people have lost sight of the true meaning of Christmas.
Mom! Hush! Shut up, Ralphie!
So now, in the spirit of the original,
Me to you! Stop!
traditional, American Christmas,
Thanks a lot!
MGM presents A Christmas Story.
Dashing through the snow
Uncle!
in a one-horse open sleigh. For the field we go, laughing all the way. Bells on bobtail ring, making spirits fly. What fun it is to ride and sing.
Fragile. That must be Italian.
I think that's Mr. Fragile, honey.
A Christmas Story.
Come on!
The movie that pulls off Santa's beard.
Oh, wow.
And unwraps the secrets
Didn't I get a tie this year?
of the original, traditional,
He looks like a deranged Easter bunny.
100% two-fisted, red-blooded,
It's smiling at me.
all-American Christmas. A Christmas Story.
All right, A Christmas Story is presented in a series of vignettes with narration provided by the adult Ralphie Parker, reminiscing on his one particular Christmas when he was 9 years old. And by the way, the author, I believe, is the narrator, right? Isn't Gene also the narrator for this movie? Ralphie only wanted one thing for Christmas, a Red Ryder Carbine-Action 200-shot range model air rifle. We meet Ralphie's family. His dad, the cursing furnace fighter, Ralphie's mom, who warns you'll shoot your eye out, and Ralphie's brother, whose job apparently is just to whine.
So we're going to shit on this movie. I think the one thing it does well, the theme music kicks off. I mean, the first frame of the movie, you hear, the theme is recognizable, and it wrote me in. I was lulled into that same, group psychosis, and I started to think, oh, this is going to be a nice memory. But that quickly ended when I heard the voiceover.
Yeah, the voiceover ruins everything for me. So first of all, this viewing was the first time that I even caught that it was supposed to be set in the 40s. For some reason, I completely missed that when I watched it, 7 years ago or whatever. And so I get that, maybe that's the reason why the narrator's speech is so ridiculously boring, that the jokes are so slothfully paced. I just felt like it drags on. That first 5 minutes feels like an hour. And I just felt like I was editing like some pretentious high school junior's like term paper. The electric machinations of the holiday communal spirit were gyrating viciously. Like, it's like, dude, fucking just speak to us. Come on.
I actually didn't mind the narration, especially if knowing the source material, where it came from, and knowing that the author who wrote the stories is the one narrating, and he also had a hand in the screenplay along with Bob Clark. Here's the thing, though. I don't think A Christmas Story could have worked without the narration. I think that's kind of like one of the main elements of the movie is the narration. And I actually kind of think that the jokes work with the narrator because it's his material, versus take like Bob Clark's story of Porky's. Because I couldn't stop thinking that the director of this movie was also the one who directed that shit show of a film that also recollected back on his high school experience in Florida, which was Porky's. Like, would Porky's have been better with a narration like A Christmas Story?
But here's the issue. Gene Shepherd is in the movie.
Okay.
He's in line when they're waiting for Santa.
Sure.
And Ralph says, oh, look, the line's not that short. He says, kid, the line ends there. That's how he talks normally. Gene Shepherd doesn't need to be like, it was the night before Christmas.
He doesn't talk like that. You're crazy.
He does. He tries to make it old-timey. Like, when I was a kid, I didn't know what to do.
So two shows that I loved both use narration a lot. Arrested Development did it, and The Wonder Years did it. And I didn't find it annoying in the least. There are effective ways to do it. I'm not anti-narration. I'm anti-Gene Shepherd's narration. It's trying too hard.
Okay, God, I'm going to find myself defending this movie. Okay, so...
Oh, Jesus.
So think about the time period that you're in, because, again, I didn't realize... I knew it was, like, old-timey. I thought it was, like, set in the 50s, but it's actually set pre-World War II. So it's actually set in 1940, meaning America's involvement in World War II hadn't officially begun yet. So there's an era of innocence in America. And I think that's what they were going for, especially the fact that it's set in Indiana, a Midwest town where Christmas is really important. Like, that's, to America pre-World War II, we think that, things are going really, really well here. And I think what the movie was also going for with that narration and that style of narration that Gene is going for is like kind of like a 1940s radio program, right? Where he's reading and kind of setting up. So I think that's what they were going for. And in that aspect, it works, at least in my opinion.
But here's the problem. This is in 1980s, right? This is an adult, older version of Ralphie recounting his childhood in the 40s.
Right.
Do you think an 80-year-old Ralphie talks that way today in 1980?
Yes, absolutely.
No, he does not.
What is he going to say? Radical?
No, he's not. No, he's not going to talk like that. Like it's a mystery, and the narration doesn't match. The film is trying too hard to set itself in the 40s. They do it with this filter. You had to have seen it. They try to make the movie look aged by some kind of yellow tint they do. And when there's the scenes of Ralphie's vision, it gets even more processed. It just looks muddy. It looks cheap. Think of today, or look at The Godfather. The Godfather was set, at one point, was it the 20s?
Right.
In New York City? They didn't throw a filter on that. They left it. It looked real. It looked accurate. This movie looks over-processed and cheap.
But with that processing, I think there is the movie kind of peaks way too early. The best part about the whole movie, if there's anything worthwhile about it, it's Ralphie's Western daydream about, defending his family from the bandits with the Red Ryder. And he's got that like insane Western outfit on. And it took me back to my childhood and having, these daydreams about how I had like these G.I. Joe walkie-talkies, and you start coming up with all the scenarios where they'd be useful. But I thought the whole movie was going to be like that. I also had like camouflage underwear and like dog tags and like a plastic survival knife. And your imagination, you'd get carried away. But all the vignettes didn't hold up like this one does.
Well, you see, it was funny you mentioned that particular scene because that was when that scene came on, when he came out in his sparkly, who was the cowboy that dressed like that? They had the cereal. What was his, what was his name?
Gene Autry?
Kinda. Yeah,
Roy Rogers.
Roy Rogers. He looked like a gay Roy Rogers. I was like, you know what? Gene would love this outfit. Like, I could see you going out to a Western bar for adult prom night dressed like that.
That looked like a Western version of Kevin Costner's outfit in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves.
How dare you? Yeah, no, I thought that was, you're right. So the little vignettes, when they're flashing back and forth, that did hold up. I mean, you could see through the eyes of Ralphie, like this is how he observes the world. And you're right. Like, I did enjoy that, when he's running from the bullies later on in the movie, and they're kind of, speeding it up in the same fashion that the robbers were. It kind of works because it's supposed to, you're looking through the eyes as the audience through, a little, 8-year-old boy.
And we're going to tear the movie apart continually as we have, I think. But you can't fault Ralphie, the actor, Peter Billings.
Oh, he does a great job.
Him. He was a novice. He was an actor, and he didn't act scared. He seemed genuine. The dialogue with the other kids seemed like things kids would really say to each other. So the problems we have is with the adults on set. The kid actors, I thought, were as good as you could hope.
Yeah, my only complaint about the kids was, and this is just an 80s movies complaint, is that kids were allowed to be super loud. For some reason, people thought that was funny, like really loud children. So there's a lot of like yelling, a lot of screaming. Ralphie's little brother just like would not shut up. And I didn't find it funny or cute. And, Raj, I think you're really sensitive to this as well, about audio editing. At times in the movie, it didn't sync up correctly. It was really tinny. I felt like they really missed the mark when it comes to sound. And again, I understand that it is an 80s movie, but if you look at other movies of the era, particularly we did, The Empire Strikes Back just a couple weeks ago, the sound quality on that was so much better than this.
But if we're gauging this movie on loud kids screaming, running around, lots of noise, Roger's going to give this thing a 1 wipe because this is Home Alone. This is Home Alone in the 40s.
Listen, Home Alone is fantastic. How dare you bring this up? No, I see what Gene is saying, and there's no better example than when Ralphie is complaining that he doesn't like meatloaf. It's dumb beetloaf, and then the mother convinces him to eat it by imitating a pig. And the sound doesn't add up, and I cringed at that moment, the fake oink noises, because the kid's not doing that. He could have just, smothered his face in it, and it could have been fun, but that scene went on way too long. Again, same problem that Bob Clark had in Porky's, where he let jokes get tired very quickly. Had they done like a hard cut there, it probably would have been a little bit better, but it did not. Yeah. So there's definitely some sync issues and Tineo audio quality.
Before we move on any further, I'd like to point out that Roy Rogers in 1948 starred in a movie called The Gay Ranchero.
No, he didn't.
I'm putting that outfit together. You've inspired me, Roger.
Well, at school, we meet Ralphie's friends Flick and Schwartz. They're debating whether a human tongue will stick to a frozen pole. They go through a series of dares, culminating in a triple dog dare, and Flick ends up with his tongue stuck to a pole. Firefighters and police rescue Flick and bandage his tongue. On the walk home, they encounter bullies Scott Farkas and Grover Dill.
All right, so parts of this movie do ring true, and I want to show that we are balanced in this review. The triple dog dare, like, they nail childhood in a lot of ways in this movie, and that was a thing growing up. Like, it's a good insight where you look back on your childhood and you go, why did that carry any weight at all? But shit like that, really did. And what I felt here is like there were moments like that kind of maybe sort of chuckle a little bit. The way, like, if you're reading a comic strip in the newspaper, right? You're not laughing out loud. It's a mild chuckle. And that's not enough for me in a movie, but I want to give credit where credit is due. I was amused at some points.
But do you think this movie, as a result, maybe saw an increase of kids licking metal poles in frozen climates? Because before this movie, I had never heard this. Now, that could be the fact that I grew up in Florida, but like growing up in cold weather climates, Big D, was this a thing? Did you know of this?
Not before this movie. I can't remember it. But I want to give credit at this point. My brother-in-law He absolutely loves this movie. We went to their house on Christmas Eve. He will try to watch as much of the 24 hours of A Christmas Story as possible. While we were there, we watched it, or it was in the background, 4 times. And he watched most of it. And while he's watching it, he's quoting the movie. He knows everything. He knows things about the movie that I couldn't even believe. So I'm going to treat him as a subject matter expert. And I asked him about the pole. I said, did they really do that? Because it looks like his tongue is really stuck to that pole. And as the expert he is, who has an entire shrine in his house with Christmas Story collectibles, he has porcelain versions of the Chop Suey Palace. He has the leg. He has Ralphie in the bunny suit. He has like a menagerie of just Christmas Story artifacts. He said the way they did the telephone pole was it was obviously a hollow tube, and they put a vacuum on to the light pole. So when he stuck his tongue over the hole, it actually pulled his tongue, and it gave that real visual effect. But to answer your question, no, I don't remember ever thinking about putting my tongue onto a cold steel pole. But after this movie, we knew it's something you don't do.
Yeah, I've never had.
Shut up!
I've never had the idea.
What about a hot steel pole?
I've never had the idea of using a vacuum to suck my tongue. However, I have had the thought of using vacuum to suck other things.
Well, talking about sucking here, this is a perfect segue. So we're talking about the kid actors being rookies. You know Scott Schwartz, he plays Flick, who is the one who gets Ralphie to lick the pole. In the 80s, 90s, decided to start doing porn, when his actual career kind of stalled. To hide his identity, instead of Scott Schwartz, he went by Scotty Schwartz.
It's like Clark Kent wearing glasses to not show that he's Superman.
It's like Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes, old Ben. Nobody would ever know that. So even though he started out doing most production and background work, he eventually came out in front of the camera and was stars of movies such as The Booby Trap, where he plays Agent Big Knob. He was also in The Devil and Miss Jones 6, where he played the Slaughterhouse Schmuck. He was in The Wrong Snatch, where he was playing multiple roles, the Sky Cap, the Getaway Driver, and the Wanker. But his main hit was Scotty's X-Rated Adventure. So there was a lot of sucking going on in these, and maybe the origins can be led back to that telephone pole.
Trace back to the telephone pole. Well, I love how he's like the Eddie Murphy, or he's the Tyler Perry of porn movies, where he's playing multiple characters. But I have not seen The Devil and Miss Jones 6, but I have seen Devil and Miss Jones 1 through 4, and they are quality films.
I feel like the casting overall in this movie was actually pretty good, though, if it has a strong suit at all. Farkas in particular was, you look at that kid and you immediately think that kid's a fucking bully. And he's the kind of bully that you can push back on. Like he's the unworthy bully. And every shithead who picked on me in elementary school looked exactly like this kid. The braces, the hair, the beady eyes. Like, it was a really good job.
Roger, you're the Disney freak. Mm-hmm. Doesn't he look like...
He looks like the kid from Toy Story.
Buzz. Was it Buzz or something? What was the kid's name?
I believe the kid's name was Scott.
No, the twisted kid?
In Toy Story. His name was Scott, I believe.
Yeah, I thought he had like a name, like a
Buzz?
nickname.
It wasn't Buzz. I thought it was Scott.
Sid.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah,
he definitely
looks
like Sid from Toy Story, without a doubt.
Yeah, he's that twisted little kid. But yeah, there are certain times that you say this movie's working, whether it's the casting of him as Scott, or I love, and one of the times I only laughed was when it really hits that genuine nerve where Mrs. Shields, she perfectly well knows who put Flick up to licking the pole. So her attempt at guilt, when she says, I know whoever did this feels more guilty in the pain that you've caused. And Ralphie just talks to us and says, yeah, parents are so dumb. It's not worse than getting caught. We don't care.
Yeah.
I like that.
I guess the best way I can describe this movie is that it's like a Saturday Night Live skit that goes on too long, because it truly is it's an episode of Saturday Night Live where the first couple of vignettes or skits are actually pretty good. But then as the episode goes on, they start, throwing out all their B ones, the ones that didn't necessarily hit in rehearsal, but because they've got to fill a 90-minute live action, sketch show, they just throw it in there. So the beginning of this movie isn't bad, but it just kind of wears on you. And towards the end, you're like, I just want this movie to be over with. And that's how I feel. Like, this movie is definitely split up into a series of vignettes, some better than others.
And they're all stitched together with sped up, pieces of them running back and forth up and down the alley.
Yeah, I didn't get that part at all with the bullies chasing them around or whatever. Again, I don't know if it's supposed to add anything to it.
It's to show that time has progressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the 80s though, that the sped up thing, I mean, it worked for Benny Hill, but this was like a really popular thing at the time. Remember, like every comedy show had the sped up action.
But then they also speed up the audio. I'm like, oh, it starts to grate on you.
Yeah.
And when they do it repeatedly, I started to dread the next break between vignettes.
Well, Ralphie's father, the old man, wins an award, a major award, in a contest which turns out to be a lamp in the shape of a woman's leg wearing a fishnet stocking. His mom, Ralphie's mom, does not like it, and a feud over it. The battle of the lamp develops, resulting in the lamp's accidental destruction.
So the leg lamp is the universal symbol for a Christmas story. I think we can all agree on that. When somebody thinks Christmas story, they think leg lamp. And so I'd seen this artifact for years before ever seeing the movie. And so when this scene came up, I was like, okay, all right, this is the payoff, right? And it's just lame. Like the fragile joke is lame. It's a major award is lame. Do you guys understand why this is supposed to be funny at all?
No, in fact, it's not even really a big part of the movie. Like there's a scene where he wins a lamp and the mom doesn't like it. And then they don't talk about it for a while. And then the next scene, she's, you know what's going to happen. She breaks the lamp and then he gets all upset about it. It's like the Millennium Falcon in Star Wars. Like for years, the Millennium Falcon was just kind of in the background. It was kind of cool and whatever, but it wasn't like the main thing you thought of when you thought of Star Wars. But now when they've rebooted, it's like, we got to put the Millennium Falcon in everything. The Millennium Falcon has to be there. It's not Star Wars unless you have the Millennium Falcon. And that's how I feel like A Christmas Story has become the leg lamp movie.
So as a kid, I thought he won the leg because of something he had done at work. Like it was a sales prize for the top salesman. But this time I picked up, he wins it because of the crossword puzzle, that he's been doing the crossword puzzle. So why would a man smart enough to spend every day doing a crossword puzzle mispronounce fragile? It doesn't fit his character. His character, they're trying to portray him as some rube, that he's an idiot who doesn't know how to say it. He's a bright man who sits and does the crossword puzzle every day.
He's also a bright man that thinks they're going to deliver a bowling alley to him.
Oh, again, it doesn't match him. But I think most of why this movie works and hit was complete happenstance. It was luck. You're talking about the box that says Fragile. Do you see across the top of it, it says his way up? It's always been a mystery. It's missing the T. And people say, why does it say his way up? When they got to the set with the box, they hadn't bothered to measure the door. So they couldn't fit the box through the door. So they had to cut the box by a third and cause them to cut off the T portion. So this movie is just, it was luck that it held together because nobody thought anything out.
But what if his way up is actually kind of like the name of the lamp? It's like a metaphor for the lamp. It's like, ooh, his way up is the sexy leg in a fishnet garter, and that's the way it's like Viagra. It's the Viagra lamp. It's his way up, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, the maze is the leg lamp.
Oh, shut
the leg lamp is the
maze.
maze.
Fuck up.
Yeah.
But we can all agree, right, that Ralphie's mother broke the lamp on purpose. This was her only way to silently rebel and silent protest against her husband.
Yeah, it's the 40s.
Yeah, she's fucking jealous of a lamp.
Yeah.
But he thinks she's jealous of the fact that he won a major prize. There's no connection there.
I mean, they sleep in separate beds. So it makes sense why he would want to put on lighted sex for the neighborhood.
But it's not like she walked in the living room and caught him rubbing one out. It's a decorative lamp.
Well, he didn't have enough time with the leg.
Now, if you came out there and he was like sitting there with the leg between his crotch and he was stroking himself, she's like, what's all over the stockings? Why is it all sticky?
All right, so let me ask you guys this. So would your wife, Big D, would she ever allow you like a tchotchke, like a BB-8 lamp in your, because you like Star Wars, right? But like, would she ever allow you a piece of furniture related to something from pop culture, just like some sort of gaudy piece? Would she ever allow you to do that?
First of all, I wouldn't want to do that.
You wouldn't want like an R2-D2 couch cushion?
No, and the reason being is she married me because she knows that's not who I am.
Uh-huh.
So if all of a sudden I decided that I wanted to put an 8-foot replica of Chewbacca in the corner of my living room,
right,
she would have a problem with it because I would have a problem with it.
All right, Gene. Because you actually have a couch cushion of the face of Nicolas Cage in your house.
I do.
Would you also? I mean, is that where you draw the line? Is Nick Cage's face on your couch, or would you also put something up like a leg lamp?
No, I mean, I didn't. Here's the thing: I didn't buy that thing. If I were to decorate my own home, and I think you saw it in my first apartment when I moved back to Arizona, it's a very austere. We might even call it Spartan. I've been asked by people who visited my house if a serial killer lived there because I don't decorate at all. So I'm not really the best person to ask, but King B has a 7-foot Frankenstein in his living room, and he actually was at one point so in love with a woman that he was going to move in with her.
Right.
And they were going to have a house together. They had gone to IKEA and bought furniture and all this stuff. And then at the last second, basically, they had this huge row over the Frankenstein because she's like, "You're not bringing that to the house," and he was like, "The fuck, I'm not. This is my Frankenstein."
Right.
I think those are the kind of things you got to really decide before you move in together. But no, fuck no, I don't want toys in my house. No,
I'm picturing Gene's home like Matthew McConaughey's in True Detective. You know, it's like a mattress on the floor. It's like a fold-out chair and like a table. When you
it's here's the first apartment that Gene had. It was everything like he had gone to a hip consignment shop before thrift store mid-century. Decorating your house in mid-century furniture was popular. So he had like a 1960s record player that didn't work. That was his entertainment center. Then he had like a couch that was completely uncomfortable, but again, it was mid-century. There was a sailboat schooner picture, and then 2 of his 4 kitchen tables you couldn't sit on. They were just for decoration.
Okay, so 3 points of detail. One was that everything in that house had a story because I went and got them from people's garage sales and like actually met those people. And so there was a lot of significance. The table, for instance, was bought from a retired Air Force colonel who was terminally ill. And we had a really long discussion about his career and it was really cool. So every time I sat and ate at it, I had a moment where I appreciated that. The record player was actually I gutted the whole thing with King B's help and we actually installed new components into it so you could listen to it. But the best part was the couch was a recycled church pew that I'd added pads to. And every time I had sex on it, I swear to God, that thing was going to fall apart. Like it was the most rickety ass couch on earth. And so, and I sold it actually when I moved because my mom forced me to get rid of it. I sold it to a gay couple. And to this day, they say that they're still enjoying it very much. This has been Gene's home.
I didn't know that you had sex on that thing. I had slept on that thing multiple times. It was the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Well, the family goes shopping for a Christmas tree where they learn Ralphie's father's love of getting a deal. On the way home, Ralphie tries to help his dad change a tire and drops the bolts. "Oh, fudge!" Ralph exclaims, only it wasn't fudge. Ralphie's mom freaks out and washes his mouth out with soap.
All right, so it's probably like only 20 minutes between the leg lamp and "Oh, fudge." But it feels at this point like we're running a marathon. Like it feels like 2 hours have passed between the two. And again, so those are like the gags. They're that far apart. But the "Oh, fudge" scene is a rare moment of humor in a mind-numbingly boring movie at this point. And it made me, again, think of my childhood. And I think that's the only strength of this movie is taking us back. And the first time I dropped an F-bomb in front of my mom, and you just feel that sinking dread where you're like, oh, shit. Like my life is over.
Well, like, what kind of punishments did you receive for cursing? Like, when you dropped the F-bomb, like, what was your punishment? Did you ever get, like, the mouth washing with soap?
Dude, Persian moms have the weirdest punishment for dropping an F-bomb. They pepper you. That's it. They sprinkle pepper in your mouth.
I would have thought they would have sent your aunt over to try and touch your pekshwa.
Let's try to make the podcast educational. How do we say fuck in Farsi?
There isn't even a word for it.
Well, what would be the equivalent? What if you said in Farsi, your mother would just slap you?
It would roughly translate to like your mom's like a goat.
Yeah, so basically all of our cursing is weird. So like if you call someone, if you say pedar suchte, which means father burnt, that's like a real fucking bad one. Or gochordam, which means like I ate shit. That's like really, really, really bad. But we don't have a word for fuck.
So wait, if you say I ate shit, is that like mean to the other person?
Yeah, like if you were like if I like wrote a description for the pod and then forgot to submit it, and you were like, hey, I need that, and I wrote gochordam, which is mean like I ate shit for trying to help you. Like I'm eating shit. That's like a big deal. Like, it's so nonsensical to help you that I might as well just eat shit. Like, in hindsight. Or another one is the hakurusana, which means dirt on my head. That's also a really bad one.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
So like what was your punishment?
Guilt.
So I mean, you
Guilt, yeah.
So
yeah.
guilt, really, and you had a little bit of pepper. Big D, what was yours?
My mother used to have a rug beater. Like you'd hang the rugs outside on like the clothesline and hit it to get the dust out. I remember her threatening me with it multiple times and chasing me, but I can't remember her actually beating me, but she must have. I probably needed more. She should have caught me a couple more times.
Yeah, my parents were very progressive parents in that they didn't believe in beating or washing mouths out with soap. Plus, I was a pretty good kid, but they loved restriction. I was grounded constantly, and I did nothing. I never cursed in front of my parents. I never did anything wrong, but I was constantly grounded. They loved the timeouts.
You needed more of whatever they were doing.
Yeah. Well, Ralphie sees a school writing assignment for What I Want for Christmas as a way to impress his teacher and persuade his parents to buy him the Red Ryder Carbine-Action 200-shot range model air rifle, but gets a C+ on the paper and is crushed on his way home. Ralphie again is tormented by Grover and Farkas. Ralphie eventually snaps and beats up Farkas.
Okay, at this point, I'm at daydream overload. The first few of them, like you said, Raj, Saturday Night Live style, I was mildly amused. But this has turned into like a nightmare version of the Family Guy, where it's just leaning way too heavily on these poorly executed vignettes that are just slapped together. It seems hammy. I'm not enjoying it at this point. I want it out.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned the Family Guy vignette because I can see Family Guy doing something like A Christmas Story and it actually working better. Like when he's standing in line, the kid in front of him with the aviator glasses that's like, I like Wizard of Oz. Do you like the Tin Man?
Like, that was good.
That shit's good.
Awesome.
But the kid's kind of a terrible actor, or I think Bob Clark's just a terrible director because I think the kid actor is doing a good job of portraying like this, kind of slow, dim-witted child. But they just didn't effectively do it. Where I feel like Seth MacFarlane and the creators of Family Guy, they know good comedic timing that I think can only be executed with cartoons versus live action.
I think we actually should start a campaign to get Seth MacFarlane to redo A Christmas Story.
I think it would be amazing, actually. I think it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, the best humor is the one you don't see coming, is the one that's not trying to be funny. And that kid with the aviator like headgear on,
so good.
He could have said anything. You could be like, I like to eat crayons.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
He was great, but horrible things though, like the fight scene. Ralphie, we're showing him he's snapping, he's had enough. He isn't even anywhere near hitting Scut Farkas in the face. He's got these big mittens on, and he's kind of playing patty cake and slapping him on the side. How did he get a bloody nose? I wanted to see Ralphie savage Scut Farkas.
Big D, what do you want? Like UFC 47? This is what kids are like when they're fighting. They kind of just slap randomly. He's a little kid,
but at least act like he's hitting him in the head. They're trying to make it look like he got some kind of like a bloody nose or broken nose. He's not even hitting him anywhere above the shoulders.
Yeah, but he went into like full Logan Wolverine Berserker mode, which I appreciate. Yes. Like the fact that he went and like tackled him and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, again, I blame Bob Clark for setting the stage for this. The scene, staging all the cameras. It didn't look like the punches were landing where they needed to be to believe that Scut Farkas was injured as a result of this, right? But there's elements of that scene that ring true, like when the brother gets the mom and then immediately Ralphie like starts crying when mom is there. Like that's a genuine kid reaction to a moment like that where you've been bullied and tormented and you finally snap and like go and hurt. Like after that immediate adrenaline rush, like there's you get very anxious and like the first thing you do as a kid is you cry. So that was relatable.
That was real, but how fast is fucking Randy, right? Randy leaves. He somehow gets all the way home in that suit that he couldn't even walk down the street previously. Gets the mother, comes back. The beating is still going on. Right. But I'll look beyond that. It's obvious that Grover is a shitty sidekick.
What, the little chihuahua to the chihuahua to the pit bull?
Yeah, don't you remember? Was it Tom and Jerry? There was the dog, Butch.
What are we going to do next, Spike?
And Spike was his little friend who just ran around that was kind of useless.
I think you've got it the other way around. Spike was the name of the bulldog in Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, right. And the little other one's running around useless.
Yeah, the little yappy one. What are we going to do today, Spike? What are we going to do, Spike?
I'm going to run home and tell my parents.
Right.
Grover sucks.
Yeah, I agree. Well, realizing he can't count on his parents for the Red Ryder Carbine-Action 200 shot range model air rifle, Ralphie tries to enlist the help of Santa Claus at the local department store, Higbee's. Santa and his elves, in a rush to get off work, wind up terrorizing the children. On Christmas Day, Ralphie wakes up to find a fresh snowfall and a pile of presents. Hidden behind a desk is the Red Ryder Carbine-Action 200 shot range model air rifle.
Raj, I want to apologize to you, but I actually took the time while typing up these notes to make sure that I wrote the full name of the rifle
I love it.
each
It's
time.
fantastic.
So one thing I regret in life is not growing up in an era. Have you guys ever been to Coney Island?
I have been. I worked there for over a month this year.
All right, so Coney Island, you know when you go to like the arcade and stuff, and there's just like the engravings and like the little touches on the arcades and stuff like that. It's just kind of scary a little bit. Like it's for children, but it's kind of scary.
Coney Island is scary,
yeah,
in and of itself. It's like there's the feeling at any moment you're going to be shivved.
Yeah. But even when it was new and sparkling and clean, it had these like terrifying like sea monsters and stuff like that just adorned the buildings. And I regret missing that era. Like things for kids are so sanitized now. And back in the day, in the 40s, everything designed for children was terrifying. Mm-hmm. And I think that was it made life a little more exciting, like birthday clowns and the Santa. Like this entire scene is like a nightmare in Higbee's department store. And I think it just made shit more exciting for kids.
Did you catch any of these live action musical of A Christmas Story on Fox this holiday season?
Why would I do that?
All right, so unbeknownst to, because I don't have cable, I'm a cord cutter, but I was staying with my aunt and uncle who still have DirecTV for some reason.
But you realize Fox is not cable.
Yeah, but it was, I don't watch normal television, like live television. Oh. Who does that? Anyway, I caught the scene where the musical is in the department store, and it completely misses the point, Gene, of what you said, in that they're supposed to be afraid. Like, again, you're doing it from Ralphie's point of view. You're a kid. They're trying to rush you through it. You got these big adults, yelling at you, screaming at you. What do you want? You don't really understand, right? You forget why you're even there. And every kid that moves through the line, including Aviator, including Ralphie's brother, they are pushed down the slide screaming, right? In the musical, they're doing like little dances and like, and the elves are, I'm like, what the, why did they even make this into a musical? But I think it's because this generation of kids today and these parents want to sanitize and not make things scary for children. It's like the episode of Black Mirror, this season's episode. Have you seen, what was it called, Big D? Archangel. The Archangel episode where they sanitize everything for kids. That's the world we're living in right now.
Well, you talk about sanitizing. My parents, I want to talk about my youth and how things were a bit different. My parents did something now, looking at it, that is fucked up. If I did it to my daughter. So this is before Christmas Story came out. My sister and I both wanted a BB gun because my parents had a house in the Catskills. We could go out and shoot and have fun. They told us one day, they said, "Hey kids, we got a special surprise for you. Come on down to the kitchen. We got a Red Ryder BB gun, but we could only get one. And we can't decide who to give it to." They made my sister and I compete against each other in some trivial game to see who would get the gun, and she won.
Hold on. So are your parents still together?
Yes, very happy.
This is why. Okay, because parents right now, they make the kid the focus of the marriage, right? They want everything to be perfect for the kid. They want to protect the kid and whatever. When parents were more interested in each other and entertaining themselves, I think that was healthier for the kids. Like,
I agree.
Like basically, they were having fun at your expense, but they were having fun.
Yeah, so I think this movie actually stole, because the second half of this is my sister got the rifle. She opened it up. I was devastated. And my dad said, why don't you go look behind the door on the stairs going upstairs? And right behind there was a second rifle. So regardless, they had one for each of us. They were, again, just fucking with us.
I want to know what kind of competition they made you do.
I told you, it was just some stupid, whether it was just hey, come up with a number, it was some stupid game.
I see. That's the only reason.
It wasn't
I think,
the Hunger Game. They didn't make us go outside and fight.
that's the only reason I would want to have multiple children. Is I'd want them to fight for my love and affection, gladiatorial style, in the living room.
They had each of you a rug beater.
See?
Make them joust.
No eye contact. I think that's the way that you keep kids in line. But the other thing that happens here, which again is another iconic part, and you can see these now. They're at Target and Walmart. Are the onesies of the pink bunny suit? Another iconic part of this movie.
Yeah, so I was pretty vocal on Twitter and Facebook about being, very. I think that a couple Christmas traditions that are hot right now need to be laid to rest. I think ugly sweater parties need to just stop.
Those
I think
are fine. Those are
adults
fine.
wearing onesies in public needs to fucking stop.
It's the only reason I go outside.
But back in this time, if I were a child and my aunt handmade me a pink bunny suit, I would be thrilled. Like, Ralphie is an ungrateful shit. It's a really well-made suit.
Yeah, that's an extra layer of fabric and protection that your aunt can't get straight to the underwear.
That's right.
So this is a shield. Yeah, this is a shield.
When you have 6 aunts, you just sort of just give up.
You just let them touch you.
I agree with you. So I will. I disagree with everything that you said. For someone who just went to adult prom and got dressed up for adult prom, how is that any different from bar crawls with onesies or ugly Christmas sweater parties? How is that different? Or Santarchy? You love fucking Santarchy. You and I have the best time at Santarchy. Yeah, we're hashers. How do you hate these events?
Okay, so first of all, it's not adult prom. Adult prom sounds like something where Depends would sponsor it.
There's totally adult prom. It's totally called adult prom.
New Wave Prom.
You texted us, Big D, read it back. I believe the exact tweet was, I'm going to New Wave adult prom tonight. I can't record the podcast.
No, he did not have adult in there. He said, I'm going to New Wave Prom. And first of all, you guys, you have to realize, not everybody is in your small bubble. What the fuck is Santarchy?
Santarchy is our small bubble. It's a national event, actually.
I don't believe it.
On December 7th, usually, where basically Santas all converge and thousands of them hit the streets, and we go. It's a bar crawl, basically, with everyone's dressed as Santa or like a Christmas-related thing. It used to be just Santas, but you don't believe it except for it happens in New York, Chicago, L.A., Phoenix. It's all over the place. But here's the difference: is that Santarchy, we're dressed as Santas. There's some effort involved there. And again, there's still people who go, what is Santarchy? There's still a part of the population. With New Wave Prom, everyone's getting dressed up nice and going to a New Wave Prom where the DJs are playing all New Wave music, which is, there's dancing. It's cool. The onesie thing is literally like, I'm a fucking child. I'm just going to zip this one thing up. And then the ugly sweater thing, when you can buy ugly sweaters new, or order them online, or go to Target and get an ugly sweater, it's become a fad and it's stupid and it needs to end. And they're ugly.
I agree. I'm totally picturing though that the crowd at your New Wave Prom looked like the Big Bang Theory crew and cast, just a cast party. Is it misfits and just kind of?
I'll post photos on the Shat the Movies Twitter of what New Wave Prom looked like.
Yeah, I want to say.
I think you don't have. I think your issue though is, it's not with the events themselves, it's with the commercialization of those events.
Yes.
and watering them down for uncreative people who aren't creative, people that need to go to Walmart and buy an ugly sweater, versus individuals like you and where we can go and create our own ugly sweaters, or we go thrift store shopping, which was the crux. It was like there was an element of hunting and creativity that went into it, versus we're all going to wear the same light up sweater that we got at Target. That's what I think your problem is with.
So at what point would Santarchy become too commercial? That it was recognized and everybody at home would go Santarchying? Would you then say, oh, I'm too cool for this?
Okay, if Santarchy started charging a fee to do Santarchy, then I would be done with it.
Exactly.
If they were like, okay, it's $7, you're going to get your Santarchy map, and then you're going to... No.
Yeah, everyone come get your Santarchy shirts and your Santarchy beards and your hats, and we're going to go to these bars. Like the very... it's like the parents are the ones controlling these bar crawls. We avoid, Gene and I avoid the 80s bar crawls. We avoid all that because they are money makers for these companies that go in and they're like, oh, $25 gets you entry and 2 free drinks.
Oh,
and they're
Jesus Christ.
Shitty margaritas.
Yeah, this is coming from the guy who spent like $80 to get a picture with Shane from The Walking Dead at Comic-Con.
It was not $80. It was $25, and he was awesome. He was a super nice guy, and I really enjoyed my time with him.
It's different too, because what we're talking about is stuff that started out organic and started out not as a commercial enterprise, and then people warping it. Comic-Con has always been upfront about the fact that it's a convention. You're paying to be there. It's a commerce site. So anyway, A Christmas Story.
So Ralphie takes the BB gun outside and fires it at a target perched on a metal sign in the backyard. However, the BB ricochets back at Ralphie and knocks his glasses off while searching for them. Thinking he has indeed shot his eye out, Ralphie accidentally steps on his glasses and breaks them. He lies to his mother that a falling icicle broke his glasses, and she believes him.
All right, I'm going to sound like a bit of a hypocrite here. It's good for parents to focus on each other. It's good to have fun. You should have some degree of supervision the first time your kid gets a pellet gun. Mm-hmm. So who the fuck? Dad's reading his funnies like a fucking lump, and he's letting Ralphie go outside with his brand new BB gun and use a metal backstop with a paper target. So everything that happens to Ralphie here, he shouldn't even have to lie. He should go back in and be like, hey, you're shitty parents, and that's why I shot my eye out.
So the parallels with my life in this movie continue on. Now we've had the BB gun for a couple years, and I've become slightly proficient with it. There was a traumatic event that happened in my life. I remember a movie had come out at that point. It was probably a typical shooter, where I remember the guy firing a rifle with one hand. So I was attempting to fire at some tin can targets with one hand and spin around in one motion and do it. I over-rotated and directly shot out the passenger window on my father's station wagon. The immediate terror that came over me, I can to this day feel that fear, and I understood what Ralphie was going through, and I also then immediately flipped into lying, cover-up mode, and I claimed in the end that I had shot a rock and it ricocheted and hit the window. To this day, I don't know if my dad really knows that I was a dead-on shot.
All right, so as a parent, I just got to ask, because I don't know this. If a kid, so say your daughter grows up, she gets her first pellet gun, and she shoots out the window in your car. Like, what's the best thing for a kid to do?
I think be honest.
Really? That's going to get her in the least trouble?
Yeah, like, if I went outside and my car had a giant scratch in it, I'd be pretty fucking pissed. But if she came and said, Dad, I'm sorry, I was driving my bike, I accidentally hit it with the handle, what can I do? What can you do?
You'd be like, you're speaking at a very high level for your age. I'm very impressed right now.
Get you in an IB program.
At 2 years old, she's not driving a bicycle yet. So I was saying a few years down the road.
Yeah, she's not driving a bicycle and she's not getting presents.
At this point, the only thing she lies about is whether she's got a load in her diaper.
But all right, so
adult prom.
Onesies, Santarchy. So do you think that Ralphie's parents knew that he was lying? Do you think that they understood that he actually did shoot his eye out, and that but they're still going to take care of him because they're good parents, and they're not like that's a learning experience that Ralphie had to go through, and that's what parenting is about. And you want to be there for them when they do something silly like that.
You want to know why it's not? Because when Ralphie's mother covers for him for the savage, brutal attack on Scut Farkas, she gives him an acknowledgement like, hey, I'm covering for you, and Ralphie knows it. Here, the mother has no clue. She does not know because she doesn't give him that look, and she doesn't give him any remedial action. If she knew he actually almost shot his eye out, she'd sit him down and say, Ralphie, you got to be careful with the gun.
So why does she believe him here?
Because she's not that bright. She's living in an unhappy marriage. She's sitting home probably drinking alone.
The husband is more interested in a light-up leg lamp than herself?
Yeah, he's more aroused by a piece of plastic. She's leading a sad life, so I really don't think she's focused on what's going on in her life. She's disconnected as a way to survive the daily grind of her miserable life.
Well, the good news is for this family, in just under a year, the Japanese will bomb Pearl Harbor, and all this will be completely, forgotten. Well, still another source of frustration for the old man is the dogs that belong to the next door neighbors, the Bumpuses. The Bumpuses own at least 785 smelly hound dogs that harass the old man whenever he comes home from work. On Christmas Day, the dogs ruin the Christmas dinner by romping through their kitchen and eating their turkey. This results in the family having dinner at a Chinese restaurant instead.
Could you imagine how different Ralphie's daydreams would be if this happened after Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Like, when I get my Red Ryder.
guess where they're not having dinner, guys?
So I could have lived forever without seeing the fa-ra-ra-ra-ra scene at the Chinese restaurant. Like, people had always quoted it around me, and I didn't get the reference. And after seeing this, if anyone quotes this part of the movie, like if any person you're passing along does the fa-ra-ra-ra-ra, just fucking unfriend that person right away. Like, you don't need friends like that. If you're married to somebody who fa-ra-ra-ras, I'm pretty sure the Catholic Church will annul that shit. It is so horrendously offensive a scene. I cannot believe that people don't call this out more often, along with Jerry Lewis's performance in Breakfast at Tiffany's. Like, this shit is just disgusting.
But I always watch like the behind the scenes and stuff because I like to do some research. The fact that they were going to bring out the duck with the head was a surprise to the cast. So their reaction, if you go back and watch it, their genuine surprise and reaction, it's great to watch. Now, whatever, the fa-ra-ra-ra doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. But the scene beyond that, when the family is coming together, they're moving beyond it, and they're going to have, Christmas dinner regardless. They're going to push through it. I was okay with it, and their general reaction at the end there made them more likable, but I still hated it.
Have you ever heard this urban myth that the creators, the Canadian company that started Lululemon, specifically named it Lululemon because he didn't want Asians to pronounce it correctly? Have you heard about this urban myth?
I heard that it wasn't that he didn't want them to be able to pronounce it, but rather that he thought it was funny that they would try to pronounce it.
Have we confirmed whether or not this is real or fake? Because it feels like someone just watched A Christmas Story and made up this lie, and it just kind of spread like the circle game. There's no way this could be true, because Canadians are super nice.
Yeah, but the founder of Lululemon was like horrendously offensive in other ways too. Yep. So I think it wouldn't surprise me.
It's believable.
How can someone so repulsive make women's butts look so amazing in yoga gear?
So there was a Reuters story in 2004. And they did a profile on him in National Post Business Magazine. And he said he named it Lululemon because the L sound is not in the Japanese language. Quote, "It's funny to watch them try to say it."
So this is true.
Yeah.
So this guy's a huge fan of this movie.
Yeah. He also said that that their yoga pants, that the Lululemon yoga pants, quote, just don't actually work for some women's bodies. Because they don't make them in,
Well, no one's listening to that.
Big sizes.
No. So if I can go back to the reason of why they're going out to eat.
Yeah.
The Bumpus is dogs.
Yeah.
I know you are both dog, guardians or whatever the hell you want to call them.
Right. I'm sitting next to 6 small dogs right now.
Yeah. Roger even has 2 emotional support dogs. So your dogs are very dear to your life.
If you're on a plane.
I'm sorry. If I find 6 large dogs break through my back door and start running amok in my house eating things, I'm killing the dogs out of fear of what they could do.
No, you're not. You're not killing an animal.
Oh, 100%. I'm with my daughter. Those hounds, as they're ravaging that turkey and the food, there's pit bull attacks every day. What's different with this?
Yeah, I think the bigger issue here is that, animal control probably needs to be contacted and go, hey, look, they got a hoarding situation over there. These dogs are running amok. It's not healthy. Killing the dogs is a bit much. Maybe just fucking keep your doors locked might help.
Hey, Ralphie could have fucking stepped up if he had his Red Ryder.
That's right.
He could have defended the family turkey.
So you think a better ending to this movie with the hound dogs is that he protects it by shooting the dogs with his Red Ryder? That's the
Seth MacFarlane version. No, I don't think that's it.
I think the dog scene. Again, this is the final skit of a so-so episode of Saturday Night Live where you're just like, well, thank God it's done. Thank God the cast is coming out to the stage and they're gonna say goodbye and they'll see you next week, because that's the way you end the movie. And listen, it's terrible.
I think as I was watching at this time, they had a way to end this movie that my whole feelings on it would have changed. They portrayed Dad as kind of this bumbling idiot who's disengaged. The final scene when the kids are asleep, it starts to snow, and you see the silhouette outline of Dad sitting with the radio playing, looking out the window at the snow. His wife sits down. They're having a glass of wine. He hugs her. It kind of goes upstairs. You see the kids sleeping. I was like, okay, this is a nice feel-good ending to the movie. I'm okay with it. Then they have to immediately fucking jam in another audio exposition of Ralphie saying, oh, I'm going to hit him and shoot him off the hip. And it ends there. Why not just go out with the mother and father sitting on the chair, snow falling, kids asleep, fade to the music. Instead, they got to again jam some disjointed part that didn't add anything.
No,
it didn't make me leave the movie feeling anything but confused instead of having a feel-good moment that would have capped the movie.
No, I agree with you. I agree. I think this movie had bits and pieces that, again, I think our memory and our collective recollection of this movie, because of it's split up into these vignettes, it's easy to think that this movie is better than what it is. And you have individuals like your brother-in-law who absolutely love it, I think, as a result of it. But if they were to really look through the eyes of the lens of individuals who have made it their hobby to watch movies week after week, he would start to see the cracks in the foundation of this movie. So with that being said, now's the time the podcast where we break out our Shat meters and give you our wipe score. If you've never listened to the podcast before, 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is the gosh, I don't even have a good Christmas analogy here. But 5 wipes is a terrible movie, and
it's the carcass that's left after the Bumpkiss dogs attack your Christmas dinner.
Right. It's the fa ra 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 of movies. That being said, Big D, how many wipes do you give this movie?
Other than they showed it in the movies, I don't know what makes it a movie. It's a set of skits that's held together really loosely by a theme. It's bad. It's really bad. It didn't put me in the holiday spirit. I think the idea of it, people hold on to, and by the year that goes by and it comes time again for TBS to put on 24 hours, you think, oh, that's a great thing. I'm going to try it again. But if you sit down and look at it, no, it's really not that great. And what's interesting is I came into this thinking I was going to love A Christmas Story and hate Scrooged. And my vision and my belief in what I saw was completely flipped on its end. It turns out A Christmas Story has very little heart and really doesn't say much, whereas Scrooged I found excellent and loved. So I don't want to go higher than a 4 because there's some good acting by the kids. There are some parts that still make you reminisce and hold together loosely for what it is, a dumb holiday movie. So I don't want to give it a 5. That's reserved for, Absolute Predator 2 garbage. So I think 4. It's a bad holiday movie, and my bar for holiday movies is usually low. So 4. Don't watch it, and don't support things. Don't buy tchotchkes. Don't go to the museum in Cleveland. Let's let this collectively end.
They made a museum of this movie?
Yeah, the house in Cleveland, again, I learned this from my brother-in-law, is a curated museum for everything Christmas Story. You can actually go on Google, and Google Maps, well, you could take a tour from Street View.
Right.
You can actually go into the house. Google has mapped the inside of the house.
Gene, you lived in Cleveland for a while. Was this a thing?
I lived in Lima, which is on the opposite side.
Shut up.
Lima's
You lived in Lima?
Yeah, West Central Ohio.
I actually toured the Lima High School when I did a military recruiting trip.
What?
Yes, I went all through rural Ohio. I went to Lima.
What year?
Maybe 2002, 2001.
That was about 7 years before I moved there. But
God bless you living in Lima.
Crazy.
Oh.
5 years.
Wow, God,
5 years in Lima. Yeah.
I thought I was living in Children of the Corn. I wanted to get out of there as soon as I could.
Yeah, it stands for Lost in Middle America.
Yeah, definitely.
What? But yeah, no, but I lived in Ohio, and I've been to Cleveland a couple times. So what was the question?
How many wipes do you give this movie?
Oh, right. Look, guys, I got to ask myself, and I asked myself the entire run of the film, why was this movie ever made? The vignettes had very little creativity. They had a few chuckles, but the writing was super cumbersome. The soundscape, I could not stand. The audio in this movie is just a tinny mess. If they ever remaster it, maybe that will help. I don't know what they can do to polish this turd. The jokes were tired. It was just flat out boring. This movie felt like it dragged out longer than anything we've watched so far. It did have, as Big D said, some truths about childhood. I think that really rang with me. Like it did cause me to reminisce at moments, but really those could all be kind of boiled down to about 4 minutes of the movie, and the rest of it was just utter shit. So for those reasons, I'm also going to go 4 wipes on this one.
Yeah, I'm in concert with what you're saying here, but when you compare this to other really terrible holiday movies, and there are a lot of really terrible holiday movies. You remember Jack Frost with Michael Keaton, where he becomes a snowman?
No.
Yeah. See, so I mean, there's a lot of really terrible holiday movies that are aimed only at an easily gullible audience that will only buy it because they're like, oh, it's Christmas time, I have to watch a Christmas movie. That being said, I don't think that this movie is very good, but it is better than most. So I can't give it a 4 in good conscience. I will say that it is a below average movie, so it's probably a 3.5 for me, but there are far better movies that are in, they're constantly shown, like a National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, which we did last year, like Scrooged, which we did this year. Those are superior movies. Like, you should make those part of your holiday movie watching experiences. Put to bed A Christmas Story. Maybe watch it once every other year, or just have it on in the background, like your brother-in-law does, but don't turn on the volume. But that being said, my score is 3.5. If we add up 4 and 3.5, what does that give us, Gene?
That gives us an average between the three of us of 3.83 repeating for A Christmas Story.
And Big D,
Really?
where does that set it in the pantheon of Shat?
Nice. That puts it down in the bottom of the septic tank. This is movie number 55 or 56 that we've done. The 3.83 puts us down towards the bottom. It is tied in the 46 spot with Last Starfighter and GoldenEye. It is just better than Blade Runner and a little bit worse than Twister.
I mean, that makes sense. That feels right.
We just lost half of the audience
That
right
feels.
there.
Listen,
Oh
we're
my
gonna get a
God,
lot of bad tweets. And
No, I love, if you go to our iTunes reviews, our one star, or that somebody wrote something, was about Blade Runner, that he was not happy that we savaged.
Oh, these Blade Runner apologists.
I have a friend, Carrie, who's also a listener, who is basically has decided she's going to start her own podcast, just going to be about how wrong we were about Blade Runner every week.
All right, now that feels right. The system works. Okay, with that, now that that's out of the way, Gene, we do our shout outs. What is a shout out?
Raj, a shout out is a way for listeners to show their support for the podcast and for us to say thank you to the listeners. If you'd like to hear your name on the podcast, please go to shatthemovies.com, scroll down, and you'll see a slide out where you can put in your name and hear your name on the air. This week's shout outs go out to Sean Burns.
Yeah, I like the way he spells it with a W. That sounds like he's like, I imagine Sean's like a cool guy. Like he probably does like snowboarding.
Yeah, he's probably got he's your hookup for like the best drugs.
Right, yeah, he burns the slopes.
Oh.
Because of his name with a W.
Pete the Postie.
So do you think he's like a mailman? Pete the Postie?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Oh, Postino.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Smith G31.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that there aren't more people going by their Twitter names.
Yeah, it's smart, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, in real life.
BC Bashuran.
Who is by far my least favorite new character in the new Star Wars.
Thomas Bex.
I like Tomas. Tomas Bex is he's one of our long-term followers on Twitter. Hey, Tomas.
Matt McCarthy.
Who is the lesser-known brother of Jenny McCarthy and Melissa McCarthy.
He's super skinny, too.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, today is a good day to die. Name that opening line, Basso.
I believe that's from Flatliners.
I thought it was Smoke Signals.
Wasn't
that Crazy Horse? Crazy Horse said,
yeah, Crazy
is a good
Horse
day to
did,
die.
yeah, he did it was Crazy Horse, but I think they also did it in Flatliners.
It's probably Flatliners.
All right, now that the shout-outs are out of the way, Big D, what's the next movie we're going to do?
Yeah, so we announced it last week. It was the Best of Tony Scott. In last place was 1995's Crimson Tide, then Enemy of the State, 98, The Last Boy Scout, 91, and the winner, True Romance from 1993.
I'm excited about this one. Also coming up, if you haven't voted yet, go to shatthemovies.com and vote often. We have the next 15 weeks are mapped out. Is that right, Big D?
They are, and the other, like, we have categories like Kids Adventures with Goonies, Stand By Me, Cloak and Dagger, Flight of the Navigator. There's a lot of great categories like Best of Patrick Swayze. Is it going to be Red Dawn? Is it going to be Ghost or Roadhouse? So go and vote. There's a lot of them that are by actor or category. Like, what's the best robot movie? Is it Short Circuit, Terminator, RoboCop? And then you also have the not so big hits like Cyborg with Van Damme.
Cyborg is not a bad movie. It's Cyborg. I remember it was kind of fun.
Cyborg's not a robot. Come on.
That's true. Is that Mario Van Peebles in it, or is that Cyborg 2?
Probably 2. But RoboCop's not a robot either.
Well, he's a cyborg.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're right. He's a cyborg as well.
Right.
Yes, but he fights robots.
I think Flight of the Navigator is more of a robot. Oh.
He fights the Sentinels.
All right.
Yeah, Ed is a robot. That's right.
Yeah.
Yes, and Roger mentioned at the beginning of the cast, if you want to help us out and support us, 2 biggest things you can do don't cost you anything but a couple seconds of time. Go to iTunes, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to the podcast, hit a 5-star, hit whatever it is that lets people know you're registering a vote. And if you have a second, write a sentence about us. It helps us. We're doing this for free. We dedicate the time. But if you can't do that or you want to help us even more, on this description, you'll see a link for our Amazon affiliate page, and it's also on the website. All this does is it takes you to Amazon to do your normal shopping that you would do anyway. It's not going to cost you anything more, but Amazon then just kicks us a couple pennies per transaction to help us pay for the servers, for the feeds, because there is a cost that accrues, and it's not cheap. It's a couple $100, almost $1,000 a year for what we're doing. So if you feel the need in this holiday time, please click our affiliate link, do your normal shopping, share with a friend. It helps.
Yeah, so with that being said, that concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us everywhere on social media. And like Big D said, share with a friend. We're on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, millionairematch.com, farmersonly.com, Sizzle, grandmas for granddads, aunts for nephews. We're everywhere.
Hey.
You can also find us on Facebook. Just search for the Shat the Movies podcast. Our website is shatthemovies.com. Our email address is host@shatthemovies.com. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by, leave that 5-star review. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and coming up soon, guys, Westworld Season 2 on HBO. You can find all the information there on our website, shatontv.com. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Gene Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next week. Thank you so much for listening. Take care, good night, and good luck.
But it was sweet when they killed Alice, and with a little help